Okay, well it's 1:30, so shall we begin?
Yeah, let's do that.
We have a large number of participants coming in now. Lovely. Okay, so let's begin, everybody. Hello and welcome to today's session. My name is Claire Potter and I am here as your monitor for the session. This session is being recorded. Now, nobody at the moment has their camera on, etc. They've been automatically turned off, but just so that you know that if you were to put your camera on, you would be recorded. And the recordings, as we just said before, are available for 6 months. And on behalf of TESOL-SPAIN, I'm very happy to welcome Robert Hill. And he is here to deliver his session on reading stories and making connections. Just check that you're in the right room, that this is the right room that you wanted to come to. And I'll be the moderator for the session. As you can see, we have the chat box, so please check that you have the chat box function. If for any reason you've got any problems, then just try refreshing the page, okay? We also have the questions and answers box where you can post questions for discussion at the end, and you will see these in your top right-hand corner. Now, you will also see that we have got 5 polls, which we'll be doing through the session. I will indicate each time when you need to do a poll and which one it is. They are all labelled according to the slide in Robert's presentation, okay? But you might actually see them from the bottom up. It's the first one is the one at the bottom, okay? And Rob has agreed to share his session handouts with you, and as I just mentioned, they will be available at the end of the session, and I will post the link. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about Robert. He is joining us today from Verona in Italy, where he lives. And for the last couple of years, he has been creating material based on folk tales, myths, and legends from around the world. And today he is going to share a story with us. So I will hand over to you, Robert.
Thank you very much, Claire. Yeah, yes, I live in Verona, and that's where I'm speaking from today, where it's a beautifully sunny day, a spring day, and the blossoms are out. Outside my window, as I look, there's a flea market going on. I hope that people behave themselves and are not too riotous, but no, it's nice and quiet at the moment. And before I begin, let me just say a big congratulations to TESOL-SPAIN for organising this event online. What a lot of work. And everybody's so efficient and charming and friendly and kind. It really is breathtaking. So congratulations to TESOL-SPAIN. That said, I do hope that next year we'll be able to meet face to face in some delightful place in Spain, because even with the best will in the world, I'm sure it's not possible to tapear in a virtual way. Okay, then let's begin. During the course of my talk, I'll be asking you quite often to take part in a poll for our curiosity. And to jot things down, if you like, in the chat box. So Claire will be run off her feet virtually, ferrying the information between those places and me, because I can't see them at the moment. Okay, now, before we do this story, before we read this story, I wouldn't be a teacher if I didn't do some pre-work with you. And just the one thing I want to do involves using pictures. There are many ways to use pictures that we all know, I'm sure, before we look at a story. There's only just one thing that I want to do with us today, though, for my purposes, which is to show you some pictures and invite you to suggest in which order they will occur in the story that we're going to look at together. in order to do this task, inevitably, what you're going to do is to create a narrative in your head. You're going to imagine a narrative. I mean, unless you just close your eyes and stick a pin in the paper to choose which picture comes first, unless you do that, surely you're going to be imagining a narrative. That's the only way of doing this activity. Now, in the story that we're going to use today, there are only two pictures. So it's just going to be a choice of first this one and then this one, or the other way around. I'll show you the two possibilities, and then I'll invite you, when I say, to take part in our first poll. Okay, here are the two pictures, and this is one order. Let's call it A. Have a good look. First of all, we have a tiger and a woman. And here we have a couple, a man and a woman. Now, do you think that the story we're going to read today will contain those pictures in that order? First the tiger and the woman, and then this couple? Or do you think that the order that the pictures are used to illustrate the story will occur, first of all, the couple, and secondly, subsequently, the tiger and the woman? Here's your choice. A, first the lady and the tiger, and then the couple. Or B, the couple, and then the lady and the tiger. If you go to the poll, which is upside down, it's un mundo al revés, the first poll question, inviting you to choose A or B, should be the last one. There are only 5, so if you just scroll down, and Maria Jesus has raised her hand. Claire, I don't know whether there is a problem, but now is the moment to go to the poll and choose A or B.
So the poll is called "What is the order of the pictures? Choose A or B," and people have voted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I'll give them another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Claire, do we have results?
Yes, we do have results. So 39% of the, 42% of the attendees, we've got 19 answers at the moment. 42% have stated A, and 60%, it's now 40-60, have stated B. One thing I just should point out, if you're using your app on the telephone, on your mobile, you may not be able to see the polls. Okay, you can usually see the polls if you're on your desktop. So if anyone's having issues with finding the polls, just put your answers in the chat instead. But B is winning just in the moment, 55% B, 45% A.
Oh my God,
in the chat, we have a couple of people who've also put B. So, and a couple who've put A. So there we have it. But just B is just ahead.
Good God, it's Brexit all over again. No, this is too much for me. Okay. All right. Well, that kind of 50-50 or nearly 50-50 is interesting. Now, when making your choices of the order of the pictures, you have to, as I said, imagine. I'm forcing you with the best of possible intentions to make a little narrative in your head, to imagine the story. And, you know, I hope that when we look at the story, you'll be eager to compare your ideas with the story itself. When you made your choices for A and B, What's the latest score, by the way, Claire, on the voting?
Oh, I will go and have a quick look.
Oh, I'm sorry to have
No problem at all. Let's have a
stirred
look.
you.
The latest is, well, 45% for A, 55% for B, and in the chat it was about half and
Yes.
half as well. In fact, now it's 48
Okay.
to 52. So yes, half and half.
All right. Okay. I'll close
like
the voting. Yes. Now, when you were making your choices, I wonder what you were influenced by. I mean, did you make up a story out of nothing, out of nowhere, tabula rasa, or were you influenced by stories that you already know? Now, quite a common motif in stories around the world is a wild beast being tamed by the gentleness of a woman. In Europe, we have stories of a woman taming a unicorn. It has to be not just a woman, it has to be, in the medieval concept of a pure woman, a virgin, can tame a unicorn. But there we have folkloric stories where women are empowered because of their innate gentleness, docility, these views of women, to be able to tame wild animals. Perhaps it's that kind of story where a wild beast is tamed by a woman. Or if you have a look at these pictures, a woman and a tiger on the left, and on the bottom right, we have a woman with, I suppose it could be a tiger. It's got rather tigerish aspects. It is, of course, the story of Beauty and the Beast, in which Beauty tames a beast, or a beast falls in love with Beauty. A vital ingredient of that is that the beast is transformed. There is a moment of metamorphosis. The beast was a handsome man, and because of the love of the woman, the beast is transformed back into being a handsome man. Just for our curiosity about how much we are influenced by the stories we know. In the second poll, it's a question: how were you influenced? Did you think the tiger in our picture was a transformed human being? It's just a yes or a no, and that should be the second question in the poll. You have 5 seconds. It's kind of like just a declaration. Did you think, looking at the pictures, that the tiger was a human being, perhaps a man, transformed? 4, 3, 2, 1. Claire, do you have news?
Yes, Rob, it's pretty close again in the poll. 50% of the answers are yes. Well, this is interesting. 50% yes, 44% no. So I'm not quite sure what's happened to the other 6%. But there you go. In the chat, because some people are probably on their mobiles, so they can't access the polls.
Okay.
We have 4 no's and 1 yes. So I think, again, it's going to come out about 50-50.
Okie doke. Right. Interesting. Now, my point here is, well, actually, it's a pedagogical point. I think it's a very good idea to give students some pictures from the story out of order, because then by putting them back into, or putting them into a presumed order, inevitably they are engaged with creating a narrative in their heads. But also this, if you thought that the beast, the tiger, is a transformed human being, it's because we step into a story, and here we're just stepping into the paratext of the story, the pictures that accompany the story. When we step into a story, we step into a world of connections. We immediately start connecting what we read or what we hear with other stories we know, and maybe with ourselves, and maybe with the events in the real world. But certainly, I think expert readers or experienced readers are always subject to, and that's not a negative expression, other stories that they know. And a web of stories is where we go to when we read or listen to a story. Not just fictional connections are made, but I think our experience of the world. Now here, if we look again at the man and the woman, gosh, why are they like that? I mean, there could be several reasons. Perhaps the man has just received some bad news, and the woman is trying to console him, but she's been rejected. I'm going to interpret that, though. I'm going to say that they have argued. They have argued. Alas, I imagine we're all familiar with arguments between men and women, and we've all been protagonists. Maybe we have opinions about how men and women argue, at least in our culture. Who does the shouting? Who's likely to shout? Who is more likely to resort to sulking, the passive aggressive of an argument? And what do men and women argue about? I mean, there are many things. Here we're in a story, so I imagine that we are not going to be looking at an argument about who does the washing up. Perfectly feasible reason to argue, but that would be for a modern story, not a traditional story. Really, in 10 seconds only, if you could jot down in the chat box, just one word maybe, what you think the reason for this argument in our story is. Really just 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time's up, and let's not argue. Claire, is there anything there?
Yes, there is. We have quite a range of things. Marie-Antonia says time together. Lynn suggests that they lost their daughter for the love of a tiger. Love from Manuela. Chris, jealousy. Estefania, love. Juliana, love. Pedro, love. Chris, jealousy. Agnieszka, they were thrown out of their house. Maria, also different opinions. No money. So yes, love, money, all sorts of things. Jealousy. Good idea.
Okay, all right, great. Love and jealousy there. How influenced by stories we are, aren't we? You know, Othello, etc. is a large part of our cultural baggage. Okay, good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we're finishing with the idea of illustrations now, but just the way I shuffle the pictures of the protagonists and present them to you, and in our culture, reading left to right, depending on the way I lay them down there, I'm sure you could construct different narratives depending on the order of the pictures that I present to you. Okay, now you must be full of ideas about your own ideas about what the story is like, whether it's like the idea in your head or not. So the time has come to look at the story. Traditional story, I won't tell you from where, rewritten by my wife, Jennifer Gascoigne, and my brilliant co-author. At the end, you'll get the story, the complete story, as a handout. Here it is. We'll read together. It will take 7 to 8 minutes. I can promise you that. But we obviously need to know the story in order to talk about it. I've just cut off the beginning. The woman is called Yun Ok, and she and her husband were happily married. Her husband had to go away to war, and after 2 long years, he returns home. One day, when she came home from working in the fields, he was there. She ran up to him and hugged him. "I'm so happy to see you," she said. "Come in and sit down. Tell me where you've been and what you've seen. Tell me everything." But her husband didn't seem very pleased to see her again. "I don't want to," he said angrily. And he pulled himself free from her arms and walked into the house. During the following weeks, Jung Ok did everything she could to make him happy. I can't quite see that. She cooked his favorite food, but he didn't eat it. She asked him to sit with her and watch the sun go down, but he stayed in the house. Finally, she got angry with him. "What's wrong with you?" she shouted. "Tell me." He looked at her sadly. "I can't," he said. Then she started to worry about him. She asked her neighbors for their advice, but they didn't know what to tell her. Finally, one morning, she decided to go and see a wise old man who lived in the forest. People said that his potions could cure everything. She didn't believe this, but she was desperate. The journey to his hut was long and difficult, but eventually she found it. "How can I help you?" he asked, without even looking up. Yun Ok explained the problem. Yes," the old man said. "Men often behave like that when they come back from a war. What do you want me to do?" "Give me a potion," Yun Ok said. "Something that will change him. I want him to be the man I married." "I have potions for headaches and fevers," the old man replied, "but I don't have the one you want. I must think about it. Go away and come back in 3 days." So Yun Ok went home and returned 3 days later. This time, the old man greeted her with a smile. "I have good news," he said. "I can make a potion for you." Yun Ok smiled too now. "But," said the old man, "I don't have the most important ingredient, and it's very difficult to get." "I'll get it for you," said Yun Ok. "What is it?" "A whisker from a live tiger." Yun Ok was shocked. "A whisker from a live tiger," she repeated. But that's impossible." "I can't make the potion without it," the old man said, a little impatiently. Yun Ok stood up and walked away. On the way home, she thought about what she could do. The next day, she got up before dawn. She crept quietly into the kitchen and put some rice and meat sauce into a bowl. Then she covered the bowl with a cloth and set off for the mountains. Everyone in the village knew that a tiger lived there. She was going to look for its cave. After walking for many hours, she finally found it. The tiger was asleep inside. She could see its large head in the entrance. She put the bowl down on the ground and crept away. The next day, she returned to the cave with another bowl of rice and meat sauce. The one from yesterday was empty. She picked it up and put down the full one. She continued to leave bowls of food outside the cave for several months. She knew that the tiger was eating it because its footprints were there, but she never saw the tiger. Then one day, it was standing in the entrance to the cave when she arrived. She felt very afraid, but she didn't run away. She picked up the empty bowl as calmly as she could, put down the full one, and moved quietly away. After that, she saw the tiger every day. A month passed. The tiger started to come out of the cave when it heard her footsteps. It didn't come up to her. She was glad about that. But it stayed a little distance away. "I'll have to get near it one day sooner," she thought, trembling with fear. Another month passed. And now the tiger was waiting next to the empty bowl when she arrived. It was so close to her that she could smell its tiger scent. She looked at its large head. It's got a very sweet face, she thought. A week later, she felt brave enough to touch its head gently with her fingers. Prrr, prrr, said the tiger, and it lay down next to her. The next morning, she put a small knife in her pocket before she set off to go and see the tiger. As usual, she put the full bowl down and the tiger ate it. Then it lay down next to her and allowed her to stroke its head. Tiger, she said softly, do you mind if I take one of your whiskers? I won't hurt you, I promise. And she very gently cut off one of the tiger's long whiskers. The tiger continued purring. Eunoch stood up and walked away. The next morning, she went to the old man's hut. She was holding the precious whisker in her hand. Look, she said when she saw the old man, I have it. I have the tiger's whisker. Really? He said. He was very surprised. From a live tiger? Yes, she said. Tell me, said the old man, how did you get it? Eunoch told the man about the bowls of food and a visit to the tiger's cave. It took 6 months to win its trust, she said proudly, but I did it. And in the end, it allowed me to take a whisker. She gave the old man the whisker. He looked at it carefully for a few minutes and then threw it on the fire. It burnt immediately. Eunoch was shocked. How will you make a potion without the whisker? She asked, tears running down her face. Eunoch, said the old man softly, you don't need a potion. You already have what you need to heal your husband. Do I? Asked Eunoch. What is that? Tell me, said the old man. Is a man very different from a tiger? You won the trust of a dangerous wild animal with patience and love. Now use the same patience and love with your husband. Go. He's waiting for you. Eunoch turned around slowly and walked home. She repeated the old man's words in her head. By the time she arrived, she knew what she had to do. Okay, now don't forget that you'll be given that story at the end of the session, or from me by writing to me, or the Vicens Vives booth. Now, yes.
People are saying how much they love the story. They're saying
thank you.
Story, that it's gorgeous, that they love the story. Okay.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm glad you appreciate it. With other traditional stories from around the world, there are some similarities, some motifs or tropes, some events, motifs, let us say. The impossible task, or seemingly impossible task, that nobody thinks it can be done, but is done, is found around the world. From Greek myths, we in the West are probably familiar with Hercules, the 12 labors of Hercules. Very common reading. Cupid and Psyche, that successful love story where Cupid's mother, Venus, or Aphrodite in Greek, is so jealous of the girl he loves that she gives her impossible task, sorting out lentils and beans. That's quite a common impossible task. You find that in Cinderella, where the horrible stepmother gives Cinderella the impossible task of cleaning the house, or in some versions of sorting out the lentils from the ashes in the fireplace. and Rumpelstiltskin can guess my name. Vasilisa in the Russian stories about brave little Vasilisa and the terrible witch Baba Yaga. Again, the witch gives her the job of sorting out beans and lentils into piles of different sizes. And from Central America, Guyana, the story of Maconaura and Anuaito is Maconaura, has to make a mask of Anuaitu's father without seeing his face. They're often helped by animals and by humble little animals, ants or birds, not by lions and tigers, but in the story of Cupid and Psyche and Cinderella, Vasilisa, that's her doll that helps her. Here we have mosquitoes that help. Animal helpers is a common motif. The woman and the tiger is a little bit different. The tiger doesn't actually help. He consents to having his whisker removed. I'm not going to explore today these motifs that are in common with other stories. If you are interested in the books that these stories come from, I can just tell you, without being promotional, that the teacher's book give the teacher a lot of background on connections with other stories around the world. We'll tell you what the connections are. I'm going to show you now some activities. This is the rest of our time together, which I'm pretty sure you can use with most stories. Yes, with most stories. Don't get the idea that all the activities I'm showing you now, I'm going to suggest using with this story. I'm using this story as an example for giving you lots of activities. Goodness, we don't want to drown the story with activities, but I'm using this story as a place where I can exemplify activities. While I show you the activities, just think in your head of whether I'm showing you activities which are good for comprehension and interpretation only, or whether they are also good for creating activities which lead to creative language of speaking and reading. Maybe I might be using the story as a springboard to take us into creating activities and speaking and reading, which have little to do with the story we started from. Well, you will see, and you will think about whether they are useful for you. Let's go back to, gosh, very old traditional stories in the West, Aesop's fables. Now, Aesop's fables always finish with a moral. And morals have resurfaced today, where they tend to be called lessons for life in modern pedagogy. In fact, they've never been away. The fact that stories might suggest a lesson for how to live. Back in the days of Aesop, morals. Inventing a moral for a story is quite interesting because morals, or lessons for life, go straight to the heart of the story. A title can be ambiguous, can be teasing, but a moral kind of declares this is what the story is about. Ladies and gentlemen, very soon you will be going back to the polling booth because I'm giving you here 4 morals, but I'm also inviting you to think of your own. Do you think a good moral for this story is patience will get you what you want? Do you think a good moral, or the best moral, is love is all you need? Or C, no creature is completely wild? D, never give up. Or maybe that's got your creative juices flowing, and you don't think any of those is good enough, and you want to write your own idea. The chat box is waiting for you in that case. Or if you're happy that one of those, A, B, C, or D, is good enough, vote for it. Ladies and gentlemen, 10 seconds. 3. You can start getting yourself ready, Claire. 3, 2, 1. First of all, Claire, from our options, A, B, C, D, do we have a favourite emerging?
We do have a favourite emerging, quite a clear favourite in this case.
Which one is it?
So we have answer D has got 27%, never give up, but answer A, patience will get you what you want, has got 60% of the votes.
Ooh,
Just
wow.
the chat. Let's
Yeah.
see what people are putting into the chat. Yes, answer A has 3 votes, answer D has 2, and then we have some invented.
Yeah.
Story, lovely. Juliana says, everything is possible no matter how difficult it can be. Emma Doyle says, anger and aggression can be tamed through patience and love. Maria Alonso says, every one of us is a wild beast. And Cristina Gomez Martinez says, fight for your dreams. So some very nice tips there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, just from a pedagogical point of view, I find that if you just said invent a moral, well, maybe that would work. But if you give a multiple choice, which is opinion-based and not fact-based, the very fact that there are examples can kind of like turn on the tap, can stimulate the production of one X novel, your own idea. Now, one way to make connections with other stories is to, okay, now we've got a moral. Can you think of other stories that have got the same moral? But if we look at the case of B, love is all you need, which, yes, could be a moral for the story, but it could be a moral for all kinds of wildly different stories. So up to a certain extent, stories which share the same similarities, they also have differences. We're going to spend a lot of time now, the rest of our time, I think, together, exploring how to use the characters in the story. Let us begin with the main character. We're going to end up a long way away from the main character, but that's 10 minutes away from now. For the moment, we'll begin, let us say, in the obvious place, the main character, Yunok. Now, she's the main character, but it is a third-person narration. She does this, she does this, she does this. We get I, the first person, in her direct speech, but it's not a first-person narrative. Let's think of expanding what she thinks and what she feels, and she must be thinking and feeling a lot, the poor thing, through giving her the microphone in the first person. And let's imagine that we are writing Yunok's diary. Now, diaries, asking people, in our case, students, learners, to imagine a diary is great for several reasons. An advantage is that it's the convention in fiction and in life that characters really bare their souls. They tell the truth in a diary. A diary is in the first person, not the third person. It's more dramatic. It's more fun to write. Fan fiction on the web makes great use of diaries because writing in the first person is more colorful to create and more colorful to read. And the diary, well, can be, yes, today I did this, but a diarist can allude to what happened before or express wishes, aspirations for what happens in the future. You can invite students to write diary entries for any time in the arc of the story, or before or after. And the next few phrases I'm going to flick through quite quickly. You'll have these in the note form of this PowerPoint, and it's fairly obvious. You can ask all students or some students to write that big entry the day her husband comes home, a week after, talk about her visits to the tiger, what her husband's like in the evening, how her mood swings from frustration to despair to anger to fear to hope. Her different diary entries will reflect all of this shifting emotional landscape. Gosh, the diary entry after her last meeting with the wise man. It's a very, very fertile area to explore writing the diary entries. Now, other characters in the story, but who are not so main as the wife, as Eunuch. Well, there's a husband. Okay, he is surely character number 2. He has no voice. He says a few things like, go away, I'm sad. But otherwise, we don't know what's going on inside his head. Let's give him the chance to express himself. The wise man, who's rather enigmatic. And it really is a dramatic moment, isn't it, when he burns that whisker? That is the moment of great drama. The tiger, I'm not joking. The tiger's point of view. The neighbor's there in one sentence. Now, going quite quickly, the husband's secret diary. Well, all diaries are secret. The same sort of moments as you might choose for Eunuch. His diary entries, don't forget, when Eunuch goes and sees the tiger and comes back, he doesn't know where she's going. God knows what he's suspecting. I'll leave you to look through these in your own time. The diary can contain his backstory, another night of dreams of what happened in the war. Oh my God, it all came back to me last night. Why doesn't she understand? Here, you can unlock what the husband thinks and feels, and what wonderful creative writing practice here they are. Don't forget, the convention is people don't lie in diaries. Out comes the truth. Out comes the things people don't say to other people necessarily. The wise man, what is he thinking? If he's wise, I presume he thinks a lot. And yet his messages are, at least at the beginning, rather enigmatic. What's he thinking when Eunuch first arrives? When she shows him the tiger's whisker, and when she goes back? Imagining the kind of, if you like, the thought bubbles that are coming out of people's heads at various times in story. Well, it's a drama technique. It's called thought tracking. It's just imagining. Claire, I see Christina has raised a hand. Maybe I could answer her query at the end. Or maybe she has a technical problem. Thought tracking, yes, imagining what character thinking. It may be different to what they're saying. The tiger, and I'm not joking. What does the tiger think? Now, we are used to, ever since Aesop, right up to Walt Disney, we are used to animals behaving in anthropomorphic ways. Perhaps the tiger thinks like humans do, with human grammar and human vocabulary. Or, and I'm not joking, maybe the tiger thinks in a tigerish style of language, which is yet to be invented by your students. I'm serious. I'm serious. To see things from a different point of view. And the neighbors, they're only there in one sentence. What do they say, though? What do they say? I mean, you can give them characters. You can say they're all the same, these neighbors. They all think the same, or they're different. You might have a gossipy, malicious one, benevolent, Eunuch's greatest friend. Maybe they too have had relatives in the war who've been killed or have come back unharmed. You can flesh out these minor characters, and you might be thinking now that we're going more into language practice, creative language practice with these spin-offs, and we've left the story behind. Maybe we are, but we're certainly practicing language. Very briefly, and I'm going to be 5 seconds, I'm going to be hard with you here. Which of those characters' viewpoints would you most like to explore? A, B, C, or D? It's a poll, straight from the heart. A, B, C, or D? Which do you think is most intriguing to give voice to? 3, 2, 1. Claire, what are they saying?
Well, we have over 50% now of people saying A, the husband, followed by the tiger, C, the wise man, B, and the neighbours, D, both have the same amount of votes, 12% in the poll.
Thank you very much. Thank you much.
Very, very quickly, C, A, C. So 2 more for C in the chat, okay? And,
okay, thank you very much, Claire.
You know, about 5 minutes if we're going to leave a little bit of time for questions, okay?
Okay. There are other characters, of course. Well, there aren't other characters, but we can imagine other characters who are not in the story. And Claire has quite rightly rushed me along. I won't give you, I'm sorry. I won't give you time to think yourselves of who else we might include. I think relatives and friends of our two protagonists, of Eunuch and her husband. Comrades in arms from the war, vis-a-vis the husband. These are people who are not in the story, but we can get them in by having them exchange letters with the main characters. Now, letters have got this little advantage. Letters in stories, in fiction, people always tell the truth in letters. That's what they always do, and that's when they always come clean. They're always doing it in Jane Austen. And it's got a different facet over the diary. The diary is like a soliloquy. It's a monologue. Letters can be dialogic. They can be, you write and they write back, and you write and they write back. So you can set up a correspondence between Eunuch and her mum. You can have missing scenes that are not there, between characters already in the story or characters not in the story. Again, I'm sorry, I'm stealing your creative time. Blame cruel Claire. No, blame the clock, not Claire. I think an obvious one is a continuation of the story. What happens when Eunuch gets home at the end of the story? And that would be a scene lasting several days, maybe, between the characters who are already in the story. Let's invent a disciple, an amanuensis for the wise man, and they talk about Eunuch's case. And the disciple wants to know from the wise man why he conducts the therapy in the way he does. Okay, so that's creating an inexistent character to interact with an existing character, the wise man. This comrade, that's intriguing me. Say, out of the blue, a comrade, an old soldier with Enoch's husband in the war, turns up. This is potentially very interesting, you know. Perhaps he's, you know, he can tell us about how he might be able to tell us about how the husband behaved in the war with great bravery, with cowardice, with savagery. Does this comrade have a private word with the husband? Does this comrade have a private word with Enoch? Once you start thinking about who's not in the story, some very, very, very interesting possibilities occur.
Rob, there are a couple of really nice ideas here. Another woman from the war, gossipy neighbours, or the parents of the husband and wife.
Gosh, and Claire, we'll be able to revisit the chat room, won't we? When we look at the recording of the story?
Yes, you'll be able to see this.
Okay, okay. So everybody, you've created your own resource there. Very, very quickly, a text intervention in the characters. What if, again, what's missing? Change one detail. Instead of a wise man, we have a wise woman. Now what changes do we have to make? In traditional stories, wise men get a very good press. Wise women are treated less favorably. And talking about the female side of things, Walt Disney has started, creating characters like Mulan, who are different from the Cinderella type characters. You may not be happy with the way that the woman is presented in the story. Reverse the roles. What changes would you have to make? Can we change the plot? I don't say change the ending, but when Enoch returns home one evening, her husband is gone. How does the story develop from there? When she goes to the cave one morning, the tiger isn't there. Oh my God, how do we continue the story? And at the last minute, Enoch just can't bring herself to get that close to the tiger. Now, what would happen to the story if we said those were the developments? Now, you don't have to use the second conditional or third conditional to talk about the story. Our synopsis is in the present simple. To be creative, you don't need complex language. I better finish here. If we change the focus on the role of the woman, make her more proactive, I don't know. Could change the final words of the wise man. Change the final words that that she thinks into direct speech. I just want to tell you what's stories from Korea. There, I kept you in suspense about that. And you might want to actually find out more about tigers. So what you can do at home is I've given you a whole bunch of true-false questions. You answer what you think. And it's to inspire you to read, and then you have a text where you'll find the answers. And to make life easier for you, there I've put in yellow. However, and Claire will be putting them in the chat box now, all of this tiger material is one of the handouts.
Yes.
Okay, Claire, yes.
No, I've just put the links into the chat box so that
thank you very much, Claire.
Participants can access them. And thank you, Rob. What a lovely session. so many
Thank you, Claire.
creative ideas. We have a few, I'll just tell you very quickly what people were saying about what they were hoping to get from your session: how to create a great atmosphere in class, how to help my learners enjoy reading. I'm sure that was definitely the case with a lot of the ideas that you've shared with us. And
thank you.
other points here, what people hoping that this will help them to learn techniques and make connections to know how my students think, etc., how to help them enjoy reading. Stories have a huge potential, says Lourdes, etc. There are many things here in the question list which also comments on how people enjoy using stories in class and how they want to help their little ones to enjoy stories. So
Great.
thank you so much for coming and presenting to us today at TESOL-SPAIN, Rob. Just to remind everybody that we are now finishing day 2. There is a goodbye session about to take place. And of course, we are back next week, next Saturday and next Sunday. So we really hope that you will join us again next weekend for more fantastic sessions like Rob's. Okay, thank you very much to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Rob?
Please go past the Vicens Vivas booth, where Maria Jesus and Corries will be able to help you with any details about those books.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you everybody for coming.
Okay, see everybody again soon. Bye-bye.